So if we recap yesterday's session, yesterday we have seen the everyday process, how the everyday process will be works in the background, and what are the dependent ESA jobs we need to submit, how the data will goes to interface tables, how the data will goes to interface table to the base table, nothing but there is a load interface file for import. Does have two parameters. One is the process name and one is the zip file name. The zip file, how will you get a zip file? Nothing but you need to download the file from the OER and populate the data within the spreadsheet, and you need to generate the zip file. Okay, that is a zip file, and you can find the process name from the OER itself. So when you submit the load interface file for import, data will goes to your interface tables. In order to push the data from interface tables to the base tables, there is a standard ESA job you need to submit that would be changed for each business entity. Okay, if any errors will be there, sometimes the data will be deleted from the interface table, or sometimes the data would be remain same in the interface table. So in order to delete the data from interface table, there is a standard ESA job would be available, which is purge interface tables. Again, does have two parameters. One is the process name and one is the load request ID. You can delete the data within the load request ID, or if there is a range request ID to be available, you can delete from and to required request ID's data from the interface table. Again, you can reprocess the data, whichever errors are there, and try to reload the data for failures. So that is for reprocess. If you have minimal errors, Oracle is providing a ADF BA spreadsheet for us. We need to download correct import errors download sheet to the local machine, so that you can this sheet can have the data from interface table. On the sheet itself, you can download the data and correct the data and push the data to the base tables. Okay, that is yesterday we have seen, and yesterday we have seen how to create a journal and how to access the data access set. We need to assign a ledger, the data access set from manage data access set for users, for general accountant manager role, so that you will get access for ledger data access set, and you can navigate to general accountant manager role. There is a journals options is there. Just create a journal and select your data access set and create the journal. Okay, yesterday we have covered the same. Now we'll continue the same here. This is a general accounting and journals. First, we'll see the prerequisite setups. This is a manage journal. Just we'll try to open yesterday's, which we have been created a journal. This is GP10. If you see here, this is a journal batch description, and balance type is always actual. Accounting period is XX July 20. So how will you get an accounting period? Always your period should be in open status. Okay, always your period should be in open status. So how will you find this accounting period? Is nothing but this is just navigate again. Sorry. Just try to open another session. Here, general accounting. Here you can find period close. Just try to open the same period close. So from the general accounting period close, you can find not only GL related periods, you can find some finance and SCM related, all the periods you can find here from period and close. Okay, receivables, projects, assets, something, receivables periods, projects periods, payables periods, and general ledger periods. These finance related periods you can find from your general accounting periods and close window. So this is general ledger. Okay, general ledger, just try to create, just click on general ledger periods. So if you see here, these are the general ledger periods. The latest open period is XXC something July 20. For the same, we are trying to create here the journal by using accounting period XXC July 20. If you see here, XXC July 20, which is the right side, the status is open. If you see XXC June 20 is closed and May 20 is open, couple of in open status, and if you see August 20 is in a future enterable status. So the functional people or onshore people try to open every month periods. Okay, once month is closed, once accounting is successfully closed, they will try to close the period and they will try to open the next period accordingly. Okay, this is the periods where you need to verify whether the period is opened or not. When you're working with everyday template, if you are not provided the correct period, if you are provided closed period in your everyday template, it will throw an error, invalid period, invalid accounting period. You need to check the accounting period. Like that, you will get an error message. If you get such a messages in everyday template, then you need to verify. This is the place where you need to verify whether the periods are opened or not. Okay, and this is a source. So by default, source is a manual here. Since we have created a journal from your application, when you're trying to create a source journal from an application, always source would be manual. So when you're trying to create the same journal from everyday template, then the source can be changed. Either source can be payables, receivables, and something spreadsheet, whatever it may be. A source can be defined by functional team and they will tell us which source we need to use. So how will you find a sources is nothing but if you set up on maintenance, global search, manage journal sources. This is manage journal sources. Just select the task, manage journal sources. Here you can find all your tasks, sources. Okay. This is your journal name. This is journal source key, description, free journals, accounting date rule. There is a checkboxes are available. Import journal references, require journal approval, import using key, and something limit journal to single currency. There are a couple of options are available. Here you need to concentrate on the name, source key, and import journal references and import using key. So these options you need to concentrate here. This is the name and this is the source key. If you see, as of now here, we could see all journal source name and the source key would be same here. If you see, for a couple of scenarios, for example, if you see AX inventory is there. For an AX inventory, this is the journal source name. This is journal source key. This is journal source name. This is journal source key. In the real world, the real-time world, your journal source and key would be remain same. For very rare scenarios, you can find like this. Journal source name and source key is different. The moment when you are able to see the both names are different, then you can see here there is a checkbox is available. Import using key. Import using key. When this checkbox is enabled, let's assume when this checkbox is enabled, when the source key is different when you compare with the source name, then the precedence will goes to IC translator. When import using key is enabled, when the source key is different when you compare with the source name, then you need to provide a source journal source name as IC translator instead of AX inventory. For example, client is populated data, but client is populated data with the AX inventory. Client is populated the data which is journal source for AX inventory. But when you when you submit your general import process through FBDA template with this eggs inventory, you will get an error, invalid journal source. Invalid journal source. Since for this eggs inventory, there is a checkbox is if import using key is enabled and the name is different. Then the precedence will goes to IC translator. You need to change. If the checkbox is disabled, obviously can use this journal source name itself. Okay, you can use journal source name itself. There is no usage of source key. When the source key will come into picture is nothing but when this checkbox is enabled and the name is different when you compare with the source name. Okay, this is your journal source. Yeah, Muzaba. Tell me. Someone is raised in a hand. Mustaba. Any doubts? Any issues? Okay. So this is all about journal source. In the same way, if you see here, there is a free journals. There is a free journals is available. If you want to update, your interface errors through ADF-DA sheet, if you want to update interface errors through ADF-DA sheet, always your free journal should be no against your source, journal source. Then only you are able to get a access in order to update the or correct your import errors from ADF-DA sheet. Okay, these 2 points you need to remember while working with journal FBDA templates. Okay, one is the free journals related for ADF-DA sheet in order to enable your or in order to edit your journal source data against your interface table to correct import error data, and the import using key will come into picture when the source key is different when you compare it with the journal source name. If it is disabled, obviously can go for journal source name straight away. If it is enabled, if the source key is different name, then obviously need to give a precedence for source key instead of journal source name in the FBDA template. So this is your source, manage journal sources, and the rest of status. This is journal name, journal description. This is a ledger. This is accounting date, XX July 20. The same accounting date we are provided. Since the August 1st it is taking nothing but there is something dates or something adjusted within August month. Very first date it is taking. And this is currency USD dollar. And this is a chart of accounts. Right, chart of accounts. How will you verify the chart of accounts? Already have been shown. How will you verify the chart of accounts? What is the task name? Anyone?
Manage chart.
Manage chart of accounts. We have seen, right, while working with your KFF reports. While working with the KFF BIP report, we have visited this manage chart of accounts. Structure instances. There you can find your segments and segments associated value set, and you can find the value set values. Is manage chart of accounts. Manage chart of accounts structure instances. Here you can find your chart of account. This is general ledger. Search. This is manage structures. Hours. Try to edit the same. This is segment 1 is company, segment 2 is department, segment 3 is account. Okay, just try to close it. Now open the structure instances. Here you can find which value sets are associated with your segment 1 and 2. Just try to edit the same. Here XXC test company, XXC company Segment 1 is associated with a value set XX test company. Okay. So here, this is my value set. Just click on the manage values. Try to search the values here. So when you populate these account code combinations through everyday template, all your values should be available in these value sets against your segments. If the values are not available here, everyday will throw an error like import errors will throw an error. Import error will throw an error like flex value does not exist. The flex value does not exist. If you see an error like that, nothing but you need to cross verify whether this value is available or not. Even if it is values available, you need to cross verify if it is enabled or disabled. Okay, the way you can verify your value set values against your code combinations. Okay, this is your chart of accounts. This is our general import template. Okay, now if you see here, the same columns we can see here now. This is status code. Always it should be new. A static value, constant value need to populate which is new. Since Oracle is provided LOV, but there is no, it doesn't mean and it doesn't make sense for an LOV here. Always the value should be new. This is ledger ID. The same sheet you can find the ledger name. Oracle is saying ledger ID is mandatory. So it's not possible to populate ledger ID always. Always you need to populate ledger name instead of ledger ID. When you populate ledger name, ledger ID would be an optional value. Okay. At the last, you can find the ledger name. This is your ledger name, and here this is your period name. Your ledger name and the period name XX July 20 already we do have from application. This is your period name and this is your ledger name. Okay, so these values we covered. Effective date of transaction, which date you need to populate. Journal source, manage journal sources, and journal category. So journal category, nothing but here you can see this is a category. This is journal category. So how will you find the journal category? There is a task from setup and maintenance, which is manage journal categories. You need to provide the values from predefined category from journal categories. Manage journal categories. So here you need to provide the category name from your everyday template. All categories should be defined, whichever you are populated through your everyday template. There is no specific conditions for these categories. Simply the category should be defined against your journal categories window. That's it. This is our category. This is the currency code, journal entry creation date, actual flag always it should be A active. And segment 1, 2, 3 and followed by against your chart of accounts, code combinations. This is debit amount, credit amount, converted debit, converted credit. Reference 1, batch name, nothing but this is your batch name. Journal batch name, reference 1. Reference to batch description. This is your batch description. Reference for journal entry name. This is your journal entry name and journal entry description. This is journal entry description. And this is a journal entry line. This is journal entry line description, reference 10. The next currency conversion rates. If you have any cross currencies against your ledger, just populate currency conversion type, currency conversion date, and currency conversion rate. This is interface group identifier. This is optional value, but why we are using interface group identifier is nothing but, let's assume for the same client, 2 users are working on this journal import. The same client, 2 users are working on the journal import. Let's assume A and B users. Okay. So when you import the data to your interface tables, A and B user both are imported in, data to the interface tables. So how you are push the data to the main table. How you are push the data to the main table with your own data, which is for A user, and how the B user will push the data to the main table from your interface table. How you are identify this is my data, this is your data. In order to segregate the data between the users, this interface group identifier will come into picture. You need to populate this interface group.
Vijay, are you sharing something? Like, because I can see only the edit journal page.
Yeah, your
Yeah,
screen is
Vijay, the screen is getting stuck in between.
I'm in general import template. You're not able
No,
to
it shows edit journal.
stop sharing screen. Now,
Yes.
I'm in general import template interface group identifier highlighted.
So can you come back, Vijay? What you are telling?
Reference 1, reference 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this is reference 1, batch name and the batch description. If you see in the application, this is the batch name and the batch description. This is journal name and journal description. The same here, journal entry name, journal entry description. And if you see reference 10 is journal entry line description. You see here, this is journal entry line description, which is the description line 10, sorry, reference 10. And followed by currency conversion type, date, and rate will come into picture when you use cross currencies against your ledger. So this is interface group identifier, nothing but let's there are two users are trying to import the data for these journals, A and B users. So how the both users will identify this is my data, this is your data. The reason this interface group identifier will come into picture, you need to populate a unique value across all the records for your data, and you need to pass this value as a parameter when you import the data from interface tables to base tables. If there is a parameter would be available for your main import ESA job, which is group ID. You need to select the group ID so that only whichever data is available against your group ID, the data can be validated and it will push to your interface, sorry, base tables. This is interface group identifier. These are the DFF columns. This is the context field for general entry line DFF, line level, and this is line level attributes and period name and your ledger name. Okay. Now we'll try to populate the data. Okay. Let's close this.
So Vijay, on this group identifier, is it unique
For all the records.
Journal entry?
Yeah, unique for all the records. For your everyday template, it will be unique for all the records.
Okay, so let's say in a journal, if you have 4 lines, so if we have to populate 4 unique values.
No, only one unique value across all the data.
Oh, okay, got it.
And Vijay, is that coming from a sequence, or how do we populate that?
Populate the common unique value. Since
but it's hard to remember, right? Every time.
No. If you use the same unique ID, also no issue. Since your data will be deleted from the interface table, right?
Okay, got it.
The reason it won't validate your group ID whether the group ID is already exist or not. Since when the issue will come is nothing but already for that unique ID, if the data is available in interface table, already data is available within the interface table, then you will get an issue. If your interface table is clean, already you are being used that group ID as earlier, no issues. It won't validate. Simply it will just try to pick the data against your group ID. This is my journal import template. Now we'll try to delete all the data and try to populate the data. Just try to delete. All the data gets successfully deleted. Now the status code is new always. Ledger ID I don't want to require. Ledger ID I can populate from, this is ledger name This is my ledger name. Just try to keep the same format. This is my ledger name, and this is my period name, XXC something July 20. XXC July 20, the same XXC July 20. Okay. This is my period name, and this is my ledger name. Now you can populate rest of the data. Effective date of transaction, we'll try to provide the same date, something August 1st, 2020. So here you can find there is a comment would be available. Effective data, when you just place the icon on each column, there is a hint can be available. There is a comment, accounting date, which is not null, and the date data type, effective date of the journal entry used to assign the accounting period. Enter journal accounting date in this format, YYYMMDD format. You need to enter the data in this format. Okay, 2020 by 0801. This is my format. Let's see if any issues while generating the data. We can use for journal entry creation date. This is journal source. Again, you can find here. Enter the journal entry source name for your transaction. You can find a list of valid values in the manage journal source setup task page. Just we have visited the same. So I'm trying to use journal source, which is AX inventory or something is there. We can use. You can get adjustment is their category. Already we are in category screen. This is my category, and we'll try to get a journal source. So I'm trying to use something journal source, which is X receivables X. There is a accruals are there, or I can go for AX inventory. Just copy the AX inventory. Just you can copy your journal source name, since it is not enabled using key. If it is using key is enabled, then you need to copy this IC translator instead of AX inventory. So this is my journal source name. Currency code is USD. Actual flag is A, and you need to fulfill the code combinations. Segment 1 is 10, and 2 is 000, and 4 is 4 zeros. Followed by 000, followed by 40. First, we'll try to fulfill the positive scenario. Then after, we'll see the negative scenarios. This is now amounts. Enter debit amount 100. This reference one batch name TP10 batch 002. The description can use journal entry name, something GP10 payables. You can use the same journal entry reference, which is not required. Just and journal entry description. GP10 payables. Currency conversion rate, type date we won't use. Interface group identifier, something you can use 565001, something you can hardcode any one of the value. So this is more enough. This is 100 rupees. We are populated for debit amount. We need the credit amount as well, right? So just copy the row and populate for credit amount for the same, so that line can be fulfilled. Enter credit amount. This is for now. You can will try to copy 2 records. Okay. So this is my data. I have 3 journal entries now. Something 200, something 300, 200 and 300. And reference batch name same. And journal entry name, if you want to change, you can change. I can keep the same. Just description I'm going to change GP10.801. And this is something 002 for the second line. And this is something 003 for third line description. Okay. So all these data I'm trying to push into one journal batch. Okay. 002 batch. This is for AX inventory source, right? Now I'm trying to populate for another source. Just copy the two journal lines. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Just copy. I'm trying to use another journal source here, AX payables. Just copy the same. This is AX payables, and the rest of would be same. Just I'm trying to use the same for AX payables. Just I'm trying to change journal source itself. Okay. All the way, all the time, your journal imports data will goes to your base table against your journal source. Against your journal source, all the data will not go as a one time to the base table. It won't go to the one time to the base table. Against your journal source, you need to push the data from interface table to base table. Okay. Here I have two journal sources, AX inventory and AX payables. The moment you need to submit your main import process two times. One is for AX inventory journal source, one is for AX payables journal source. Okay. Now this is my data, and for this, for all the records across all the data, my interface group identifier is 5001. So when you submit the main import process, there is a group ID parameter be there. For that parameter, we need to provide 5001 against your source, so that it will verify if the data is available. Simply it will pick the data, validate the data, and push the data your base table. If any errors are there, it will generate error log file. Okay.
Vijay, can we do the same thing with the batch name?
Sorry.
I mean, can we do the same thing with the batch name instead of group identifier?
No. We do have only group ID parameter. We cannot segregate the data for other than group ID here.
Okay.
So there is a instructions and CSV generation sheet would be available for each FBDA template here. Here you can follow this overview, how to prepare the table data, how to load the data, and what are the prerequisites you need to follow for Excel template format, and recommendation for loading for journal data. Just you can go through the same to correct the import errors, what you have to follow. Oracle is providing some minimal instructions for us in order to satisfy your FBDA template. So once you populate the data, there is a button, generate CSV file button is available. Just click on generate CSV file. So it will generate a CSV file along with a zip file. Just try to, this is my folder. Just try to save it. Just click on OK. Now if you see our folder, this is GP10 folder. The zip file successfully generated. This zip file contains one CSV file, since we do have only one GL interface table. So how will you find GL interface table here? This is your GL interface table. See here, this is your GL interface table. We are trying to insert the data against this GL interface table with help of SQL loader and with help of control file. Okay. This is my generated zip file. Just expand it and try to view the data with a notepad. Now you can see this is your data, which is comma separated. For each line, it will generate an end of the line. The way your control file can be identified, there is a next line would be available for this file. So this is your data. Now it's time to submit load interface file for import. Already we are ready with your zip file. So what is our first job name?
But Vijay, you didn't provide the ledger ID, right?
Ledger ID we are not provided, just we are overridden with ledger name.
Oh, okay.
Got it? So this is tools and schedule process. Since it is a ESA job, all the ESA jobs you can find from schedule process, schedule new process. This is load interface file for import. The first ESA job would be load interface file for import. Just click on OK. This is import process name. How will you find import process name? Against your OER. There is a schedule process available. Just need to copy paste your, or you can find your import process name. Here search won't be work. Just open the drop down LOV. So there is a search option is available. Just try to click on the search. Here search with import journals. Our process name, schedule process name is import journals. This is my import journals. Just click on OK. And you can select your data file, whichever your generated zip file. Just select the data file. Upload a new file. There is an option would be available here. Upload a new file. Choose the file. This is my zip file. Just click on OK. Just try to submit the process. So what it will do immediately, it will try to submit the child ESA job, transfer file and load file to interface. Since we do have one ESA job, right, it will try to submit one child ESA job, which is load file to interface. If you have 10 interface tables, it will try to submit 10 times for your load file to interface. Now this is transfer file is successfully submitted and it's succeeded, it's completed with succeeded status. Nothing but the file can be transferred to respective UCM location, which is finance general ledger import. Now it will try to unzip the file and it will try to submit load file to interface, which is in a warning status. Now it's in a warning status. There is an issue with your data. So when it is warning, so it will generate a bad file and log file for us. There is attachment section is available here. Here there is this is a bad file, this is a log file. Just try to open the log file. You can see the log file same as your control file. So here this is my log file, same as your control file log file, SQL loader log file. Accounting date, date format picture ends before converting entire input string. So there is something format issue is there. We need to correct the format. So before that, we'll try to delete all the data here. Delete the existing data. This is my 2028 one, right? Just try to format cells. This is custom and followed by slash, followed by the slash. So this is my format. I need the format like this. This is my format. Just copy the same set. Just you can provide the same. Just save it. When you generate the zip file successfully, it will generate a one more file is available, CSV file. Just delete this. Just for everyday process, this will be generated. For a couple of everyday process, it won't generate. So once you correct the data, again generate CSV file. Do you remember, right? It won't import partial data to your interface table. If any one of the record is in a failure status, all the data can be rolled back. Okay. The reason you can see here is our here. Total logical records skipped 0, total logical records 10, total logical records rejected 10. Okay, successfully 0 rows are successfully loaded, 10 rows not loaded due to data errors. It won't allow for the partial import. Now you can save the same. So now this is my zip file. Again, try to submit the same. So the way when you're working with any everyday process, first try to create the transaction from the UI and try to find the what are the mandatory columns or what are the mandatory attributes are there. You can find the same and try to find the setups for those so that you can verify from your end if any errors are there. So your job is very easy in order to populate the data against your everyday templates. If you don't know anything from application perspective, it's very hard to populate the data. You don't know which data you are trying to populate. Okay? The reason always try to get help from your application. Try to fulfill the transaction from UA, then only replicate the data. Try to replicate the same data against your everyday templates. Import journals and data file. You can upload a new file. Choose the file. Zip file. Just click on OK. Try to submit. Transfer file is successfully completed. Now the load file to interface also successfully completed. So select the load file to interface and try to verify the log file here. So this is my log file. If you see here, 10 rows successfully loaded. 10 rows successfully loaded. Logical records read 10 and these rows successfully loaded to your GL interface table. So this is your GL interface table. Table GL interface, always it is within append mode. Okay. Now you can connect to your reports and try to verify the data. New and the data model. Select from GL interface. Group ID is 5001. Our group ID is 5001. I'm trying to query the data, our own data. I don't want bother about others' data. So this is my data. Just click on 50. You can see all the data here. So this is your complete data. If you observe the data here, this is the status. These are the who columns updated, and this is ledger ID. So automatically, when you populate ledger name, when you populate the ledger name everyday template, while inserting the data to your application, so automatically it will populate the ledger ID. Okay. This is accounting date, currency code, actual flag, code combinations, debits, credits, reference columns, and period name, user JE category name, user JE source name, and this is group ID, load request. This is load request ID. If you see here, 4519841. This is all your request ID. For all the records, load request ID would be same. So how it is populated, the load request ID? This is something 841 ends with, right? So you see here, this is your load interface file for import ESS job ID, which is 841. The ID would be populated for all the records against your data. If you want to parse the data, you need to populate this. You need to pass this process ID as a parameter and select the process name as import journal so that it will try to delete the data against your process ID from GL interface table. Okay. So this is your data. Okay. So this is your data. Now it's time to push the data from interface table to base table, right? For that, schedule new process. Our main import process name is import journals. This is import journals, creates journal entries from imported information from subledgers and other source systems. Just click on OK. Here you have set of parameters. Just we need to satisfy those parameter values. First, the data access set. The data access set, how will you get this data access set is nothing but from the managed data access set for users, there you need to provide a ledger access so that whichever ledger access you have, all the ledger values you can see here. Yesterday we have been added one ledger, right? What is the ledger name yesterday? Something CU secondary ledger, this one. CU US secondary ledger yesterday we have been added from managed data access. So you can see all your data access sets here. If you see this is the blank is nothing but you are not associated with any ledger. Your user is not associated with any ledger. Okay. So this is my ledger and the source. So what is your source? My source is AX inventory. Just try to copy, paste and AX inventory here. So now it will verify against this data access set, against source AX inventory, if any data is available in your interface table. It will validate against this source, against this data access set in this combination. If any data is available in your interface table, it will populate the rest of two parameters, ledger and the group ID. Ledger and the group ID. Okay. Now it is saying against this combination, there is a ledger data is available, XXC test US primary ledger, and the group IDs, two group IDs are there, 1920 and 5001. 1920 is others, we are not bothering about 1920, and 5001 is ours. Just select our own group ID. Here, any doubts for data, these parameters concept? Anyone? Any clarifications required here? It's clear, the concept wise. How the ledger and group ID would be populating here based on your data access set and source combination. It will verify if this combination, if the data is available in interface table, it will try to pick all the data and it will populate the rest of two parameters. It won't directly get the data against your parameters. Based on your inputs, it will try to get the data from your interface table. It's clear, the concept wise. Yogesh, Vishal, Ashwini, Sripad.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Clear,
Got
right?
it. Yes.
Just try to submit the process. Now what it will do, it will try to get the data against 5001 against your AX inventory against this ledger. It will validate the data and push to your base tables. If any errors are there, it will generate an error log file for us. This is import journals. It will try to submit import journals child. The child will validate your data and it will generate a log file if any errors are there. Now this is completed. It is succeeded status. This is a positive scenario. This is succeeded status. If you query your table data, just try to refresh it, just again view the data. It will delete your AX inventory data. See here, I can see only 2 journal entries. The rest of 3 journal entries are successfully deleted from your interface table. This is AX payables. If you see AX payables data is available, AX inventory source data successfully deleted from your interface table is nothing but your data will there in your base tables. Now just navigate to your journal entry screen. This is general accounting and this is journals. This is manage journals and try to search with your batch name. So what is your batch name? This is my batch. Try to search with the batch name. Now you can see that this is my batch. Okay, just try to open the batch. When you create any journal batches through FBDay template, the batch name and journal name should be created as a different. This is your batch name. So when you create as a application, it will create same as your batch name. It won't add any prefix values here. If you see here, this is your batch name. This is your source name. This is actual flag. This is your group ID, and this is your load request ID, and this is a new batch. This is the combination which Oracle is maintaining when you creating a batch from your FBDay template. This is a journal batch description. This is journal entry name. Journal entry name, again, it will be created with a journal entry name followed by journal category. Adjustment, this is your category adjustment, and source is AX inventory. Earlier we can see as a manual, right? Since we are uploading the data from FBDay template, this is source AX inventory. And these are the journal entries here. If you see here, debits and credits, and followed by your journal entry line descriptions. And these are the code combinations. Now it's time to submit one more journal source. Still data remains there in your interface table. So again, submit the import journals. It's not possible to at a time submit all the data to your base table. Always you need to push the data to the base table against your source. So this is AX variables. Variables, and against AX payable, there is a ledger is available, US primary ledger, and the group IDs. These many group IDs are available against the same ledger. So in this, our group ID is 5001. Okay, if only a single user, a dedicated user is working on this journal import, no need to populate group ID. Simply need to use all group IDs, nothing but it will take a null value. Your group ID would be blank, and if the dedicated user is working on this journal import, no need to populate the group ID. Simply can pass by default value all group IDs. If the group ID is available, you take a group ID. If it is not available, you take as a blank value. Okay, this is 5001. Just try to submit the data. This is got succeeded. Now try to search, just cancel it, and so search screen, manage journals, and try to search. You can see 2 entries here. One is for AX inventory, one is for your payables. One is AX inventory and one is for payables. If you query that your table become empty for your group ID. For a group ID, all the data successfully deleted from your interface table. Now the process gets completed. Just try to verify any one of the log file import journals child here. It will provide the statistics for you here. This is a more, and try to download the log file. Log file is not help for us. Just try to download the text file. Text file contain the history here. This is your XX test US primary ledger, journal import execution report, your journal entry source name X payables, group ID is 5001, status is success. Total lines 4, total batches 1, total headers 1. And this is a batch created. There is no warning. This is your batch name and period name and total the number of lines and total accounted debits and the credits. Okay, these are your history. If any errors are there, you can see the here error details. Your import journal child program in a warning status, and you can find error details here. And against error details, there is error codes would be available. It will generate error code for us. Against error code, you can find error details here, why it is an error. For example, when you pass EP01, this date is not an open or future enterable period. If you pass an invalid period, okay, now we will get an error EP01 against your record. Here EP01 is nothing but this is your error detail. The way you can find errors. That is, we'll see tomorrow for the negative scenarios. That's it for today.